All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining and tuning in. My name is Jesus Garza. I'm the city manager here in Victoria. Joining me is Ken Gill, our city engineer and public works director. We wanted to take a minute this morning and walk you through what happened yesterday evening, as well as be as transparent as we can with the next steps so you know what to expect. What we know is that shortly before 7 p.m. last night, a 20-inch water main line broke, located at the intersection of Ben Jordan and Airline, right outside pump station number 3. This is significant. This line is an old cast iron line from the 1950s, as far as we know, and it would be impossible to ascertain a specific reason or cause. Sometimes it simply just happens with some of these older lines. Nevertheless, we were made aware of the break fairly quickly. Crews arrived roughly at 7:30 and began to isolate the area to try and isolate the break as well. Obviously, whenever you have a water main line of this magnitude, it could potentially lead to a massive depletion of water in the system, which we want to be very mindful of. Luckily, crews were able to isolate it at roughly 8 p.m. This break did, however, cause water towers 1, 3, and 5 to lose a substantial amount of water. And briefly, in a little bit, Ken will explain a little bit about our pressure planes. But water towers 1, 3, and 5 do serve the south pressure plane, which you've heard a lot about. And consequently, folks in the south side were the ones that were most impacted by this. Residents in the south side did see a loss in water pressure shortly after 7 p.m. because of this break. Even though crews were able to isolate the break at 8 p.m., we still lost millions of gallons of water because of this depletion. Luckily, by 9 p.m., staff was able to find a way to directly pump water from pump station number 3 into the system. This is why residents also began to see improvements in the water pressure roughly after 9 p.m. last night. Nevertheless, regardless of this quick response by staff, which we're all very proud of, the water did deplete from the water towers, and we did experience the pressure dropping below 20 psi. And per TCEQ guidelines and per the recommendation, we did issue the boil water notice late last night. And Ken will hit a little bit more on that. But before I turn it over to him to talk about the boil water notice, south pressure plane, and the next steps, I do want to take a brief moment and personally thank all of the crew and personnel that responded to this. They are literally working on 15 hours, no sleep, no rest. I had the privilege to be out there last night and witness firsthand their dedication to our system and our community. And I want to thank them by name. I want to thank Austin Anderson, Distribution and Collections Manager, Santos Ibarra, Water Distribution Supervisor, Eddie Garza and Rodney Rodriguez, Utility Crew Leaders, Joshua Blackman, Marky Gaitan, Adolfo Arispe, Reynaldo Trevino, our utility maintenance workers, and Jeffrey Frischbeck, our utility line locator. These guys are literally working nonstop, and rightfully so. This is a big deal. There's been some comments online about us being short-staffed, and that is absolutely correct. We do have a lot of vacancies in our utility division, and so even more kudos to these folks that are spending a lot of hours fixing this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ken to briefly hit on the next topics, and then we'll happy answer any questions after that.
Good morning. I'm going to kind of explain the difference between a north pressure plane and a south pressure plane. The city has two zones, what we call of elevations, and it's divided basically at Mockingbird Lane from Loop 463 to Sam Houston. And in that pressure plane, if you can picture it, traveling up Sam Houston to where it hits Navarro and then straight across to Main Street. Of course, north of that would be considered the north pressure plane, and south of that would be the south pressure plane. Reason we have two pressure planes is the elevations of Victoria. Of course, north side is a higher elevation, south side's a lower elevation. And the break occurred on the south pressure plane, necessitating the boil water notice. And speaking of that, some of the key items on a boil water notice is you need to rigorously boil the water for 2 minutes, let it cool down, and then it's drinkable. Of course, bottled water is always a great option for drinking. Children, seniors, persons with weakened immune systems are particularly vulnerable. And once we finish with the boil water notice, we will put out a public notice to rescind it. Kind of give you an update of where we are on that. We are taking the samples to make sure our system is safe. In the process of doing that, that'll go to TCEQ, I mean, not TCEQ, but the health department is working with us to analyze those samples, and should all the samples pass, which is 5-6 samples, then we will rescind that boil water notice. We're hoping by noon tomorrow, 1 o'clock, we'll have those sample results. Anything you'd like to add? And I just want to say, on top of the water crews, the next step, of course, will be the street repairs. So it's a public works endeavor of all departments. I mean, even traffic had to get out there to adjust the lights. So it's a big project when it comes through. Yes, we got the water on, but the next, of course, is fixing the gigantic hole that's out there.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. We know based off of comments that we received or read online that there was some confusion around where the pressure plane is divided, and so hopefully Ken's guidance helps. We have updated the website and the release with hopefully a clearer map that lists some street names that you can use to help you figure that out. And you're welcome to visit our website for that additional information. We also plan on, for sure, putting out another press release tonight at 6 p.m. With the latest and greatest. Hopefully it's consistent with the message today. We don't anticipate it not to be that way. But that way everybody's up to speed with everything that's going on. For that release, you can receive it or view it at victoriatx.gov/news. That's where we will put it out tonight, and we'll share it on social media as well. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions that the media partners in the room might have. And we're also paying close attention to any questions that might come through online as well. So, Keith?
How many customers altogether were affected? Do you have any guesstimate?
It'd be very difficult to ascertain exactly how many customers were affected because it was an isolated event.
Well, I mean, in the South Plain.
Yeah. Do you know that?
I would guesstimate probably we have 22,000 meters total, so I would say a good half of that amount, 11,000 water meters, so 11,000 total customers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that it looks like on the map that the North Plain is pretty much everything above Mockingbird going north. And so anyone that lives in that area of the city is totally okay to drink their tap water. Everything is totally fine. It's just everyone below Mockingbird that's affected by this water main break and boil water notice.
That's correct. The water towers that feed the north pressure plane are directly fed by the water plant, and there was no disruption or issue on that side of the system. And so there is no concern of any contamination of any kind of the water going straight to the north pressure plane. And as Ken described, it is based off of elevation. And so the water, once it's at the very top of the system and it funnels all the way down, it's not going through any area of concern. And so that area is okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Yes, sir.
Now, this might sound like a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There's no chance that this was caused by intentional by sabotage or?
No. Any other questions? Anything online that you think we should address?
I think one incident that people need to be aware of is the fact that this did happen at midnight, so the question keeps coming up, how to make this more visible, and so I think maybe just going over those sequences of events and how we share our information out, which would be to local media partners and then online, and then what we do on a daily basis, which would be driving people to our website.
Right.
where everyone
And I don't know if any of you can hear that, but in essence, it's a little bit about the flow of communication. One of the things that was very unique about this incident is that it was an isolated event. And so consequently, it did take a little bit of time for staff to process through that, communicate with TCEQ for clear direction. This is unlike, the winter freeze and in that scenario where the entire system was impacted by that. And so it did take a little bit of due diligence work. We obviously didn't want to issue a boil water notice if we didn't have to. But through confirmation with TCEQ late last night, that was able to flow that way. We felt that it was in the best interest of course, the public to put that out as soon as we could. And so we made the decision to put that out late last night, even though we knew that it would be very difficult to get the details out that late at night. But we wanted to, of course, take the conservative, safer approach and put it out as soon as we could. And even though it caused some confusion, hopefully residents did receive it and did respond to it. Now that it's a new day and we've been able to regroup this morning, we of course are having this press briefing, and we'll continue to post updates online, on our website, on Facebook, and have more direct contact, with our media partners as well, so that that flow of information is consistent in real time. And so that's our game plan for today.
One of the other main questions is, what can we expect as far as timeline? And I think you guys alluded to that. Could you just repeat that part of it?
Sure. Just to refresh the timeline, so as Ken mentioned, the 5 or 6 samples that TCEQ is requiring us to take around the affected area only, those are being taken today in coordination with the health department. They'll be analyzed today, with the results coming in late tomorrow is the goal. And so at that point, we expect to rescind the boil water notice tomorrow, roughly midday. And we'll confirm that with the press release this afternoon as well, once the samples are submitted and we get a more accurate timeline for their results. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all so much for tuning in, and thank you to our media partners for coming in as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.